Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another StarCraft 2 broadcast. My name is Naris. Today we're here watching the first game in the best-of-3 match series between Dimaga, spawning as the Red Zerg up in the top right position, against this purple Protoss opponent NrSRaNgeD, down in the bottom left position of the mTwDIMAGA altar. Just a super quick map introduction for you today. You can see main base kind of elongated up here for Range, heads towards the north, towards his fourth base. More immediately accessible expansion, which you see a Pro is actually heading towards right now, is the natural right here. Heading down south, you do gain access to a third base. Not going to have a full set of minerals, though. You can see it only has 5 patches there and 1 normal Vespene geyser. 4 watchtowers litter the center of the map. You can see there's an elevated terrain there, 4 different very large ramps, and the map is mirrored 4 different times. Now, let's go over a little bit of player information here. Dimaga, he is actually a 24-year-old from the country Ukraine, and his real name, Dmytro Flipchuk, and I hope I pronounced that right. I'm the worst person with names. I could hear them like 15 times, and I would still end up calling them like Pork Chop Duck Pond. I don't know how I'd manage it, but I'm just awesome like that. Most notable accomplishment actually goes most recently notable accomplishment in the favor or in the case of Dimaga. He is the first person to defeat NrSRaNgeD in a televised Zerg versus Zerg. So Dimaga, right now, let's just say he's on a roll. Looking forward to an exciting game here. His current rival, he says, is Fruit Dealer. Although I was hoping to see them in the NASL face-off, but I guess Dimaga didn't finish his application on time, and Fruit Dealer, his application wasn't quite finished. So, I don't know. Maybe next time. Do want to point out that Protoss player Ranged has already scouted Dimaga, popped up there, saw that Dimaga was going ahead with that gas first, then spawning pool, rather conservative play. You see he's keeping the probe down here, expecting an expansion here to come shortly. This is a very, very macro-intensive map. I'm not surprised at all to see the Ranged going ahead with this early Nexus before even the gateway. You see he does have the Forge. There's the gateway going down, making a nice little choke point right here. He can pop in a Zealot or two, maybe a pylon up here, shrink it down even further. We'll see exactly how he's going to be playing. Let's actually go over a little bit of information about Ranged here. He is actually on Team New Rosoft. His name is Austin King. He's from the USA, Protoss player, obviously. And most recent accomplishments, he played in the Game Creds Cup number 12, got second place in that, and the 2011 Hypercrew.com show match number 3, second place in that as well. And I'm hoping that we're going to have a very fun match series today. You can just kind of get a look at the early game APM. Not too important at this point, but always something kind of fun to look at least for a moment or two. As we're seeing, guys, okay, both players are going to be playing pretty darn conservatively here in the match start. Like I said before, that's not really something that's unexpected. Very large map, very long rush distance between the two players, especially since they're cross positions. Another interesting fact about this map, I know I've said this in a video before, but I do want to say it anyways. The layouts of the expansions can oftentimes create different dynamics depending on the spawning positions. It's not going to be a huge deal in the case of where these two are spawning for this game, but let's say that Dimaga was spawning up here, and good night, probe! Let's say Dimaga was spawning up here, and the Protoss was spawning down here. The natural expansion for the Protoss player, you could see, would be pushed up towards Dimaga's natural. But the difference is the Protoss expansion for the third would also be pushed up towards Dimaga in his natural. Whereas the Zerg, Dimaga, his third, would be away from the Protoss base. So just a little something to keep in mind when you're playing in different positions on this map here. Now, let's focus on the game just a little bit. We can see Ranged going ahead, continuing with that pro production. He has done a complete wall off now, so he is really looking to tech up. He may decide to go with some kind of airbase play even. I don't know. We might see some indication of what he's been doing in a moment or two. It's hard to say at this point. He does have both geysers already going. If he wanted to, he could actually drop down. See, the pylon you can't reach quite right there due to the range reduction. Can't really get outside of the building except for right there. But if he were to drop, say, a pylon right here, he could begin to warp in some harassment units and head up towards Dimaga's base, maybe put a tiny bit of pressure, scouting, etc. Now, speaking of scouting, we do have a couple Zerglings coming down here. He's going to spot Ranged wall. All right, he's going to know Protoss has locked himself in, couple cannons. I pretty much got a couple different things he could do here. Number one, he could always go for meter harassment, which is pretty good on this map, but I don't know if that would be highly suggested. I mean, you can get Blink Stalkers and just negate that really easy. A couple cannons. You see, he's already got the Forge at the very beginning of the game, so it wouldn't be difficult for range to transition into a very, very nice defensive play against those mutas. Something else we could see? Maybe Nidus Worms at this point. That would be very exciting to watch. Ranged has kind of thought of that, though. You see, he does have the Pylon right here. So it's giving a lot of vision. Not doesn't completely uncover the northern part of the base, but a good bit of it. Some few other things we might see could be Roach Hydra, could be Zergling, Baneling. I mean, at this point, it's pretty much anything. With both players playing so conservatively and just macroing up, you see DIMAGA's got his third base right now. The game could really just go anywhere at this point. Now, as far as, I do want to speak for just a quick second about, oh, nice DIMAGA. You see he's even dropped down the Spore Crawler right there. Does he have one down here? Okay, yep, looks like he's got one right here as well. So yeah, he's anticipating air as being a potential threat and is guarding against it. Yep, sure enough, there we go. Got a couple Spine Crawlers right here as well. Now, anyways, what I was going to be getting ready to say was, recently I've had some difficulty with my video settings. Occasionally my videos will go black. It's actually a pretty big issue for me. I've tried like non-stop for the past day or two to figure it out. I think I've got it resolved. So I've noticed that actually a lot of people have unsubscribed over the past week or so. I don't know if it's because of this or what, but I certainly do hope to have it resolved here. I'm in the process of what I'm doing basically is transferring the raw AVI files into a non-Fraps codec, because apparently there's a compatibility issue between the Fraps codec and Sony Vegas, which is what I use to render. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to fix that here in the coming day or so. This will actually be my first video attempt to use my new settings based on what I've learned. So, hoping we're going to have a great product here. If not, we're going to continue to work on that. I do want to thank you guys for your patience while I figure this out. Now we see down here, alright, good stuff. Range, going for that expansion. Looking pretty secure. You see he's actually moved out pretty Sentry heavy right now. I mean, that's not surprising. You know, Sentry's a very, very effective unit against Zerg early game. Block off those roaches, obviously. Stalkers can outrange them. And let's see, you even got the 1 damage upgrade as well. You know, can wall yourself in against any sort of attempted Zergling run by. Any number of uses for that. But I do want to point out here that we're not seeing really nearly enough scouting / harassment in terms of range. We are seeing he is sending out the Phoenix hallucinations, and that's really good. And I do want to point out, I'm going to kind of eat my own words here, because right as he sends that up, we're seeing he's going to spot those 2 additional expansions from DIMAGA. But neither player is really putting a whole lot of effort into denying expansions. They're really just content with letting this game go on into an extremely economic heavy match. I would not be surprised. Look at the income tab right here. Yep, sure enough, Zerg is sitting at 2k minerals per minute and about almost 600 gas. Looking at this, you see he's got 3 evolution chambers, one of which is actually not going right now. There we go. He's teched up. You see he's got the infestation pit. Does not have a hive just yet, but it's just continuing to expand. You see he's doing a pretty good job keeping down the money there, around 600 gas, etc. You see Protoss is a little gas heavy at this point. He is working on Immortals, maybe expecting some roaches here in the coming moment or two. But looks like his range is going to be moving out for an attack. He's going to spot a few roaches. Yep, sure enough, not a lot though. We can actually just look at the units tab and see pretty much most of DIMAGA's forces consist of Zerglings, a few roaches, a couple queens here and there. They're kind of littered around the map. And there's range actually working on taking out that expansion as we speak. Has claimed the Watchtower, realizes creep is everywhere. He's not going to be able to do any sort of super swift attack with all this creep everywhere. DIMAGA's going to have plenty of vision. You can see he's got a couple cannons down here working on producing those gateways. All in all, he's actually being pretty passive right now. He could have moved in and done a little bit of damage. You know, looking at this right here, you got a couple infestors, a few hydralisks, but force fields could really negate a lot of the damage of this army. DIMAGA is going to be going in for some Banelings, though. That's a pretty interesting choice. I'd really like to see some Baneling drops. That is something that I've actually seen often talked about recently on the Team Liquid forums. You know, using infestors, nailing down that Protoss ball of death, and just bombing the hell out of it, man. Very, very exciting match. Do want to point out that Ranged is still working on taking out that expansion. You see he finally took it out and is moving on to up here in this northwestern position. No hatchery, nothing like that, and this one is secure. But, you know, I'm pretty sure that Ranged is happy with that. You know, moving his forces up when he did, he kind of provided a little bit of a distraction while his other couple zealots finished off that expansion. So overall, I'd say it's looking pretty good for both players here. You got another Colossus on the way. All right, that's good. You see the range upgrade is now complete. Going to have that Colossus range extended from 6 to 9, which most of you probably know. See, he's actually keeping 2 observers here in the army. It's kind of an interesting choice. But we can look at the vision of him real quick. We see that he is sending out another hallucination. This is pretty much what he's relying on for scouting at this point in the game. So he's probably thinking he might have to keep these two observers around just in case he wants to send one off, maybe near his army. It's hard to say at this point. See, he's got actually a board probe there. That's never a good thing, but I'm sure he'll catch that in just a moment. Not a lot of action at this point. We're about the 15-minute mark. We've had a little bit of a skirmish. You know, Ranged has taken out this hatchery right here. But so far, both players are still content to just continue building up. And, you know, I think at this point, DIMAGA could send in some of his Zerglings and just try to do a little bit of mineral line harassment here. You see, he's got about 1,700 minerals saved up in the bank right now, and just about supply blocks. So he's going to have to start using some of those units here soon, if nothing else, just for a little bit of harassment. Same thing goes for range, though. We see he's moving out across the map as we speak and approaching the middle. All right, that's where the creep tumors are. Going to pop those off very quickly. DIMAGA, of course, probably not happy about that. Going to have to creep all the way back out there or send some queens out. Pretty vulnerable spot to be in. See, he's working on continuing knocking off that creep. We can pretty much just keep an eye on that. Here we go. Zergling's actually moving in. Going to try to take out the cannons. Not going to happen, though. You see Ranged warped in a good number of Stalkers there very quickly, able to handle that without too much trouble. You see he's actually sending the rest of his forces over there as well. Again, probably just a little bit of a reaction. Not sure if he was going to be able to hold that off with what he warped in. Turns out he was able to, though. Worked out well for him in the end. Looking at the army composition right now, we can see, oh, Zergling's coming in here. We're going to be scouting out the base. All right, see a couple cannons there. Probes coming off, doing their thing for King and Country. Queen and Country? I don't know. You know, it's funny for somebody who actually has British ancestry. I am terrible with my own whatever. All right, let's focus on StarCraft 2 again here so that I don't feel quite like an idiot. Ranged, scouting once again. Hallucination's going to spot that army there. You see a ton of Zerglings. Pretty decent amount of Hydras. He's got 12 of them right now. And, you know, Hydra's obviously very effective against the Stalkers, but they do have the blink ability. One thing I want to point out, he doesn't have a lot of Zealots, though. You know, he's got a good number of Colossi, so that means he's going to be able to do that AoE damage very quickly. But he's not going to have a lot of units to actually tank that damage from the Zerglings and the Banelings there. If he uses that blink effectively, he's going to be bringing back all of his tank units and leaving the Colossi vulnerable. We'll see, actually, if he's able to use Force Fields to their fullest extent. You see, he just dumped a ton of energy there. And you can see most of these sentries right here have actually spent a large amount of their energy. And I like how DIMAGA is expanding so very close to a ranged base there. But, I mean, hey, why not? You know, Range has already shown he's coming up here with a couple of Zealots. He's keeping a pretty good eye on that. And he is just going to continue building up his base. I mean, look, now DIMAGA is at around 3,000 minerals per minute, or 3,000 minerals in the bank, rather. And looking at it, you could see Protoss, he's around 2,300 minerals per minute, 96 harvesters. I mean, this guy is just raking in the money right now. And we can see he's even got a mothership on the way. Let's see, where is that building from? Oh, not right there. Not right there. Let's see. Justice is somewhere on the map. All right, there we go. There's Justice warping in just a moment or two. Range is just going to continue to mosey around. You see, he, again, still trying to build up that energy on the sentries. That's going to be pretty essential in dealing with this giant, very mobile ball. I like how he is bringing some Ultras into the army, though. Here we go. Zergling's taking some hits right off the bat. Look at that fantastic placement for the... Oh, wow. Look at that. Zergling's just trampling right over the Colossi. That couldn't have been better for DIMAGA. Catching all the Colossi way out of position, and there's even a fungal growth on the observers. We could see now that the Protoss army has definitely shrunk, 159 to 174. Here we go, Mothership is in the field. You see there is no detection. He will be able to place a fungal growth on this stuff and see it though, but with the Hydras already here, I mean, what's this Mothership going to do except fall and explode? 25%, 10%, and that is probably the quickest, most short-lived Mothership I have seen on a matchup of this level. So yeah, we see the Banelings having a field day with the probes. Probes actually just running right through the Banelings. And now DIMAGA is just gonna run all over this expansion. Nexus is gone, cannons are gone, gas, everything just demolished. And Ranged is actually, his economy is gonna be hurting as big time as a result of this. We can actually see right now, yep, his probes have definitely gone down about 20 or so. And when you've got DIMAGA over here expanding right next to your base, you really don't want to be giving the Zerg player the economic advantage, which you see he's still sitting on 3,400 minerals and 200 gas. So, I mean, he could just holy Zerglings at any point in this game here. He does also have the Greater Spire, so we could see some Broodlords. Those would obviously be pretty effective. Gonna have to watch out for the Blinkstalkers, though. We'll wait and see exactly what Range is gonna do. He does have 5 Void Rays on the way as we speak. I think he's, yeah, got all the Stargates right over here. Yep, sure enough, there we go. Forgot to rally one there. It's okay. And now we have another probe transfer. Again, minerals over here about worn out. And this expansion, I'll tell you what, it is actually pretty well defended. We can see right now that DIMAGA could be going in for another attack, though. He's kind of scouting out the Protoss army, seeing what we got. Now, there are a large number of Void Rays here, about 8 of them, but still, a fungal growth or 2 could really just wreak havoc on this army. Nail it in place for a few seconds, run by, send some Zerglings. I mean, there's any number of things that could happen at this point. But we are seeing Ranged still trying to assume that defensive position. You see he's using the Colossi, great unit at this point, to take advantage of the fact that, well, there's not really a choke here. Okay, there's a little tiny bit of a choke, but other than that, almost completely walled off, and you need a unit to come out here and try to make sure DIMAGA isn't going to be amassing at his doorstep. Too close. Colossi and Void Ray, great matchup for that. So at this point, yeah, we're seeing Zerg is still actually growing his economy even more. He's now a max army, continuing to work on the minerals, the gas, and I mean, at this point, I realize I keep saying that, but DIMAGA, I really think, is just in a fantastic position. He could just send in tons of forces, let him die, you know, take out something like this, which is pretty vulnerable right now, and rebuild his army, Zerglings, once Range is out of position. Send them in over here. You know, obviously Range could put a force field right down here, but DIMAGA is content with just going ahead and expanding all over the map. He's got another one right here, another one right here, and when he's got these going, you see he's actually going to be controlling about 2/3 of the map there. And he did make a nice little wedge by taking out this expansion right here. But you see that Ranged is once again kind of trying to push out a tiny bit. He's got the proxy pylon. He's going to be able to warp in more stalkers should he decide to do that. And he's also trying to do a little bit more harassment on DIMAGA's southern expansion. You know, kind of, what are you doing down here, man? You know, this is my half of the map. I did not say you could build this hatchery, and you shouldn't be here. So I'm just going to kill you. Pretty basic, straightforward stuff there. I think we just heard a whole bunch of Banelings morphing in there. Yes, we did. Excellent. Excellent. Plenty of Ultras. It was funny, speaking of Ultras, I finished watching, I went on a Fruit Dealer spree while I was waiting for some videos to render. I watched a whole bunch of Fruit Dealer games, and just his love of Ultras, man, it was just a sight to be seen. If you guys haven't gone back, maybe if you're new to the community and you haven't watched a lot of Fruit Dealers games, definitely go back in the first GSL, watch the grand finals, stuff like that. It's very exciting matches to watch him just have a field day with Ultras and pretty much any unit that he darn well chooses to go with. Now you see that expansion? It's gone, taken out. A little bit of attempted harassment there by Ranged. Not going to happen though. He's actually continuing to run around very, very heavy on the Void Rays. We can actually look at the units tab and see 28 Hydras. All right, 3 Infestors. Could lay down plenty of fungal growth on that. Gonna have to watch out for the Colossi. Again, he might actually catch them out of position. Oh, so very close. He doesn't have any units to tank for him, not even any force fields. So all of the units are just able to get right on top of the Colossi there and trash them. Look at that fungal growth on top of all of the Void Rays. Again, DIMAGA moving in with that surround. A couple Void Rays reinforcing, but at this point, I mean, really, what's he going to be able to do? He's got 2 Void Rays left in this army, and 1 High Templar, which does not have Storm, and apparently does not have a desire to live either, as he just runs headfirst into the Zerg Armada, and, well, not running anymore. We see DIMAGA's like, you know what, man, I'm just not even going to worry about this at this point. He's got another 200 army, still sitting on about 2.6k minerals in the bank there. Working on getting that creep tumor out. Even bringing the queen with him, probably to heal up the ultras a little bit. And may decide to go in for the kill here. I'm not too sure. I mean, you could see 128 to 200. He definitely has the production capability to just run all over the Protoss at this point. And you see he's also got a ton more Hydras coming down here. It's so very easy for him to transition into, you know, a very heavy Hydra build with all of the money and gas he's got sitting around right now, all of the hatcheries. And yeah, there we go. This expansion is going to be going down. And I really don't want to call it early, but I think at this point there's just not a lot that range can do. You see he's still working on the Void Ray Colossus. He's got plenty of Stalkers here on the field. I think they're kind of hanging out right here. But again, he doesn't have any of those units to tank for him. He's not going to have any force fields at this point. But he's going to have carriers. Carriers, folks. And this is a rather interesting choice. I'm wondering how he's going to make that work with all of the Hydras in the field. He had to know, Range had to know, that by using all of those Void Rays a little while ago, that's just sending all kinds of like 15 different red flags up to DIMAGA. Hey, you need to get anti-air because, hey, guess what? I've got tons of Void Rays very quickly, so I've got a ton of money invested into the Stargates. Hydra's very, very strong at dealing with the carriers, at dealing with the Void Rays. You can nail them just so very easily, and he's even got the Infestors around, so fungal growths land on him there, keep him from running around. And yeah, I think it's a choice that I'm very much looking to see how Range is going to make this work. He was able to secure another expansion, though. We see he's got this one once again, the little kind of halfway point. So not quite as isolated, the 2 bases there, as they were a little while ago. But DIMAGA running around, you can see now 47 Hydras, 6 Ultras, more than enough to absorb a lot of that damage from the Colossi and kind of keep the Blink Stalkers on their toes there. Looking at the energy for the Infestors, he's got 2 of them. Also got a Queen still running around. I mean, hey, why not? You got the creep spread all the way up to the Protoss base. You might as well bring them. You can always just heal your big units, you know, keep them in the fight a good bit longer. Might actually need to do that right here for this one, but we'll just keep an eye on that. Haven't seen any Baneling drops this game. It's one of the things I was looking forward to, but that's okay. That's okay. I see Stalkers moving over here. Armies kind of dancing around in positions, 2 different portions of the map. Very close to one another, though. DIMAGA, he's still playing rather conservatively. He wants to wait and see what the Protoss player's next move here is. He realizes the expansion's probably gone down over here. You know, he hasn't scouted this, but he kind of figures there's going to be another expansion there. Probably figuring that as well. So now we've got 3 carriers, 5 carriers in the field total. I think it's kind of funny how it counts interceptors in the units tab. He's continuing to make more carriers. So he's pretty much just what I'm seeing here. Carrier, Void Ray, Colossi, Stalker. Huh. Well, I mean, he certainly could make it work there. You know, the Colossi, I think, does he actually have just 1 in there? No, he's got 2. Okay, so Colossi. Yeah, I can still use the plural term for it. All right. Couple of High Templar. Of course, without the amulet upgrade, they're going to warp in with just 50 energy. Going to have to wait a little bit before they can get that first Psystorm there. Very effective at feedback. Obviously, can pop off some of these Infestors, but he's got so many of them. I mean, really, what's he going to do? Sit there and micro and try to feedback all of the Infestors, which are, you know, while the Zerglings and Hydras are running circles around the rest of his army. Probably not a very effective use of energy there. What is effective is catching your opponent off guard, which we saw a little bit right there. Took off a couple free kills. Nothing that DIMAGA can't recover from, though. As you see, he's trying to get the Protoss player off of this little hill, away from the watchtower. Try to engage on more neutral ground right here, where the creep is spread out nice and thick. Protoss, I don't think he's going to buy it, though. You see, he's still trying to get those carriers up. He is maxed. He's got all of his interceptors good to go. And here we go, folks. Look, we're going to have a very large engagement. You see, the storms are just blanketing the Zerg army, and look at the mind control on the carriers. We're seeing, actually, he's got 3 of them right now, while the Hydras finish off the rest. This is just a total domination right here at midfield. All the carriers going down. 106 to 97. Now you see Protoss army dropping very quickly. The mind control helped out a lot. But I mean, the fact that DIMAGA had so many Hydras over here, he was able to quickly dispatch the rest of those forces, the Stalkers, the 2 Colossi, and the rest of the carriers, giving DIMAGA game number 1 here in this Z Cup best of 3 match series. Thank you guys for watching. Going to be looking forward to game number 2, possibly a game number 3, depending on who wins the next match. And yeah, hopefully this recording comes out clean so we can continue on with more StarCraft 2 awesomeness.